Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ESS BIZTOOLS conversation on Chief Financial Officer Services. I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are around Australia. And if you're in a lockdown area, our thoughts are with you, and we hope that you will be able to organise your accounting, bookkeeping, or business advisory businesses so that you can continue to service your clients in an adequate manner. What I want to start with today is analysing the duties of a Chief Financial Officer. A couple of years ago, I conducted a survey over about a 6-month period of advertisements for Chief Financial Officers, Chief Accountants in corporations, commercial corporations. And from that, we analysed what were the key duties of a Chief Financial Officer. And we dissected them into the key components. And the first of those components was the commercial functions, which looked at various matters, such as management of commercial services, information technology, human resources, treasury. These could have been some of the roles that you would be involved in offering Chief Financial Officer services for your clients. Risk management. That's just not insurance, it covers other things. Would you have included COVID-19 in the risk management strategies that you prepared for clients 18 months ago? Some people had pandemic type strategies in place. Effective cash flow management. What are you doing in your business? Relationships with banks to assist with future growth of the business. All matters relating to working capital type areas. Debtors, stock, work in progress, bank relationships. Preparation of detailed budgets, projected cash flows and projected balance sheets. All very important part of the component. Looking at pricing and commercial negotiations. So there's a range of services come under the commercial function heading. Business growth. Some of the jobs we're saying drive profitable growth to achieve the business's targets. Establish strategies and tactics for business growth and shareholder value improvement. In fact, shareholder value was emphasized in a number of the advertisements. Are you doing that for your SME clients? Execution of financial strategies and activities. Merger and acquisitions. Key financial data. Customer, people, growth and profitability targets. Now, these include items that for many of you who have specialized in offering an annual accounts and an income tax return type business, you probably don't get involved in very often. But looking at the customer aspect, the people, the growth, and setting of profitability targets is a very important component of the CFO role. Monitoring the key performance indicators, making sure the leadership team and the general team understand what these reports are indicating. Perhaps having some discussions with the team and changing some of the terminology that's used so that it is more user-friendly to the team that are going to get these reports back. We don't want them just throwing them in the waste paper basket. Benchmarking comparisons, using information produced by the Australian Taxation Office, benchmarking.com, and some other organisations to analyse where your client fits with their peers in their industry. Creating efficiencies by analysing margins and costs and risks, system development and implementation, business improvement projects, looking at the gross profit percentage, comparing it on the benchmarks, identifying that there's a 4 or 5% differential. What can be done to reduce it? Looking at waste management and reworks. What can be done? Bringing that to management's attention to say 2% of our costs are based on reworks, or 2% of our activity is reworks. What's that cost? What about pilferage? What's the cost of it? Calculate it. What was the expected gross profit? And what was the achieved gross profit? The difference is undoubtedly consisting of pilferage in a big area, and the rest of it might be wastage. A lot of big businesses record all these in details. Why shouldn't SMEs, especially if they've got you involved as a virtual CFO? Analyze key result areas and interpret those results for the decision makers. As the virtual CFO, you will not be expected to be the one that makes the decisions, but you need to be able to submit to them reports. I read in the newspaper that today, National Cabinet's meeting, and they're going to be considering reports from health experts as to what the degree of complying with the COVID-19 injections is to open up the borders, to stop these lockdowns. It's basically the same thing. You'd be writing those reports to the leadership team. Company secretarial, in many cases, especially for SME companies, I think if you take on a virtual CFO role, you will also be, in effect, the company secretary. So that's the management of administration, legal, and company secretarial functions. Doesn't mean you're going to be doing the legal function, but you would probably be the direct liaison with the company's legal advisors. Coordination with the chairman on the calendar for board of directors meeting, advising the directors of this, assembling the reports, abiding by any rule that the board has established. A lot of boards have a rule that all the material needs to be distributed to the directors within 72, well, within 72 hours of the board of directors meeting. So the directors have got time to read and absorb and get their brains into gear when they turn up at the meeting, so that they're able to contribute. Preparation of agendas of meetings, preparation of the minutes, the action plans, and the follow-up with whoever's got to produce reports or special reports to be submitted to the next directors meeting. Or perhaps the directors want that report sent to them 2 weeks before the next meeting. So making sure that that happens is an important part of your role. Executive leadership team. That means that you're going to be working with those people as part of the team. I think it relates to you being with them and being accepted that you are part of that team that is concentrating on driving the business activities. You might find that you need to undertake some mentoring and coaching with the other leadership team members to ensure that they are aware of their corporate governance responsibilities, that they are aware of the financial implications of various decisions that are being made. The personal attributes of a CFO are very important. And this is going to really apply to you in performing a CFO role for a SME type client. Hands-on approach to work. You won't have a big department. You've got your team, of course. But this is the description that was put in advertisements in the Financial Review for CFOs of listed public companies, a hands-on approach. Disposition for challenging the status quo. Does that apply to you? Is that the service you can do? ability to engage and influence a wide range of internal and external stakeholders. Now, you might say we haven't got those, but of course you do. There's the other directors in the company, the members of the leadership team, perhaps some of the key shareholders. And there could be some other external people that you need to take and build your team capability. When you take on this CFO role, it's not one person. And I think you need to be very conscious of the need to build your team, to make sure that the team member who is going to be nominated to the client as being the go-to person for day-to-day communications or urgent communications, if the partner is not available, or the senior manager, whoever is leading this team and performing the role of the CFO, needs to have a second person in place so that the client knows they can contact him or her. There needs to be an environment that will encourage the client's team to talk to you and your team. It's not them and us. Otherwise, virtual CFO services won't work. You need to bring the client's team in, that they're not seeing that they're second class. You are supplying a service to them until they grow big enough when they will undoubtedly employ a full-time CFO. It's not degrading them because you've been appointed. They've probably got an office manager working there. That person's got their job to do. You've got yours, which goes a bit above that. Drive financial asset management. Cash flow management skills are very important as part of your role. Need to be a strong leader. Offering virtual CFO services is a bit like straddling a fence. You're in both camps, within your professional practice camp and your clients. And you may be doing this for half a dozen clients. So that's an interesting role, isn't it? I pose this question because I think this is very important when you look at this role. I really cannot imagine anyone appointing a virtual CFO unless the company is committed to growth, committed to scaling up. They're going somewhere. They appreciate that they need this higher range of financial and accounting services, business advisory services. The clients acknowledge this. This is going to be costing the client a fair bit of extra money, probably a minimum of $25,000. I have one subscriber who tells me he's earning $125,000 for offering a CFO service. Still significantly cheaper than a full-time CFO in certain markets of Australia. So I envisage that in my own knowledge of how these sort of arrangements have worked, could be a turnover from $1 million up. If someone is really aspiring to scale up their business, they may be prepared to employ a virtual CFO from $1 million turnover. But I think it might be a wee bit higher than that in actual practice, but it doesn't have to be $10 million is what I'm trying to say. And you need to be committed to a capable leadership team. You're going to be part of it. And they may have some other people on similar arrangements where it could be marketing. It could be an engineering type role. It could be software development. Some of their leadership team may also be in virtual assignments like you. And I've just said that. It's important that you establish that you are part of the leadership team. If the leadership team of these clients has a huddle every day, log into it. If you can't be there, but participate, find out what's going on, especially find out if something went wrong in the financial or office role the day before, because you're going to be involved. Your client needs a motivated staff team, especially if they're going to scale up their business. You've got a role to play in that, because some of that staff will indirectly be working for you as the virtual CFO. I think it's important that you make sure you have trained, first of all, the office team in the processes that you want implemented as the CFO, but also the leadership team and then the more general team. My experience is I found that team members need to understand key performance indicators and how they all fit together and how you can utilize them to communicate with your broader clients. Involvement in the development of strategies, particularly financial and corporate governance. That's your key role in this organization. And to do that, you will need to make sure that other people in the organization understands what all this means and how they can play their role. Strategies need to be implemented. They need to be identified. You can sit around and have committee meeting after committee meeting and write numerous notes and policy documents on developing strategies. But the key thing is, how do you implement them? Who's the implementers? Your role is primarily in the financial and corporate governance type areas. You need to make sure they are implemented, but it also includes, as we've just seen, risk management, cash flow management, funding of the business. And just on tune, funding comes up, but ongoing management of funding is a vital component of this role, especially in a company that's aspiring to scale up. Because as they scale up, they need more and more money normally, because they've got debtors going higher. They've got inventory possibly going higher. They may have expenditure in activities such as research and development that they didn't have before. Or they may have undertaken some capital expenditure to expand their business premises. So you need to be able to predict when will that additional funding be required to enable the company to keep on its growth projection. And what type of funding will it be? And is it going to be enough? Is it loans? And the big question then is, has the company got security that can be offered to the lender? It could be share capital. It could be crowdsourced funding, equity raising. Or it could be Section 708 of the Corporations Act, which is the ability to raise up to $2 million in a 12-month period. And crowdsourced funding, equity raising, the company could raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period. So that's an overview of what I suspect the Chief Financial Officer does. And I know it. I was a Chief Financial Officer in a listed public company. And one of the other big issues that used to confront me every day was what I called the what if questions. The CEO would buzz me with what if questions. Can we do this, Pete? Can we do this? Can we change this market? Those questions came all day, every day. Some of them were from our public company directors. Some of them were from other leadership team members, but most of them were coming from the boss, who was wanting to know information. Now, the CEO of the company that I was with had 10 other direct reports, I think I added up the other night, who were members of the leadership team, very capable and competent people in their own rights. They also were responding. So They also were getting what if questions. I just at times thought it was only me, but I obviously knew it wasn't. They were getting their questions asked by the CEO as well. What do your SME clients do? Serious question. Who do they sit down and have their discussions with? Who do they fire off their questions to? And these days, of course, it could be by email, it could be by text, it could be by telephone call. Who do they ask? And I think as part of the concept of supplying virtually CFO roles to your clients, you need to think this through and work out how you're going to respond to those questions, because I think they're vital. They're one of the key components of this. So make sure you factor that into your costing estimate to your client as to what this is going to cost them. Do you think it'd be an hour a week, 2 hours a week? And then you need to work out a system as to who's going to respond to those questions if you're in a meeting or you're tied up in something else. Who of your team's going to at least take the question, start the team working on it to give a response so that you can come back? Because whilst I got all those questions in my organization, I didn't do all the work. I checked it. I probably briefed it. But it was a costing exercise, or it was someone looking at currency rates and doing a calculation. So you don't necessarily have to be able to answer all the questions yourself if you're the CFO, but you need to own the responsibility. If you're going to do this sort of work. Okay, so what I now want to do is go to our website, where I'm going to take you to our members area on ESS BIZTOOLS, and you should now be able to see our page. And in the left-hand column here, we have the various components within ESS BIZTOOLS. All of this is included in our gold or advanced package, but people can subscribe and do subscribe to individual components. We're going to Chief Financial Officer Services. So I'm clicking onto that now. And we have a video there that people can watch, and we're going to download the content. There's bits of other material there, but we're just concentrating on CFOs today. And I'm now going to work through this material, and there's a whole range of material included within the Chief Financial Officer Service. I'm just slowly going through that now so you can see that. And I'm going to take you through this so that you get some idea of the backup material that you're going to receive to be able to offer these services to your clients. So the Chief Financial Officer is having a bit of trouble there picking that up. Chief Financial Officer Service form should now be on the screen. So we are looking at, this is the types of services that you might provide. This is a checklist for you to work through with your clients. To get their comments as to what you're going to do. See there, I got the what if scenarios. preparation of budgets, cash flow forecasts, predicted balance sheets, government grant applications. Are you doing that? Risk management areas, insurance, personal property securities register. How much involvement are you having with the personal property securities register? It's a big area. Over $440 million has been lost by Australian businesses since that legislation started. 62 million of that was a subsidiary of one of America's top 100 companies. So if the subsidiary of America's top 100 company, one of those companies, can lose $62 million through ignorance of that legislation, it will also happen to SMEs. And in fact, it has. The majority of problems have been with SMEs. Now, some people object to having to register on a government register to protect their own assets, but unfortunately, that is the law. So what do you do as the virtual CFO? Loan applications, intellectual property development, monitoring. These are all parts of the duties that you might look at, the company secretary duties, key performance indicators, alerting the CEO on any trend changes. Business has dropped its GP percentage. Why? Finance and cost, foreign exchange cover. If you're an exporter or an importer, what's happening with the currencies? Working capital review, benchmarking to the ATO and to benchmarking.com reports. Valuation of the business. I think the business should be valued annually, and a discussion then held with the leadership team and the directors. Value it as if it was going to be valued in the marketplace. Research and development. Is the company undertaking research and development? If so, should they be claiming the rebate? Scaling up, monitoring. We just referred to scaling up. Leadership, the team, developing strategies, executing strategies, business funding. I see that as a vital component of you performing a virtual CFO role. Special industry seminars. I envisage that in performing your role as the CFO, that you will develop knowledge and skills that will be able to enable you to very confidently talk at industry conferences and seminars. And perhaps there's some specific assignments that you might be able to attend to. So hopefully that gives you an overview of what is involved in undertaking those sorts of services for your clients. The next one that I want to bring to your attention is a strategic management consultancy. Which you should now have on your screen. My apology with that. I got a bit excited with the mouse. Strategic management consultancy. This might be some other areas that you need to sit down and talk to the CEO about. You're going to prepare a business plan as part of this role. The monthly performance management evaluation, KPIs and benchmarking. Assist the management team to achieve business objectives. They might be to increase profitability by a percentage, achieve a 5-year plan, look at succession planning in the business, corporate governance review, getting investment ready to raise capital. If your client is proposing to raise capital to fund their growth, there is some preparation that you can do beforehand. Getting ready for an IPO. The company wants to do an initial public offer. That's a big move. And there's a fair bit of work involved in that. Getting ready to raise capital, crowdsource funding or early stage innovation company. Maybe there's some leadership, mentoring and evaluations, mentoring the management team, organizing 6 monthly or annual business retreat planning days. Very important. And at those activities, your contribution could be around the business planning review, key performance indicators, benchmarking, succession planning, vision for the business, due diligence reviews, annual business evaluations, advice on reports going to the board, distribution agreements, a watching brief on some matters such as workplace health and safety and personal property securities register. And monitoring what's going on in some taxation and government areas. If your client's an exporter or importer, some of the matters there that I think you should be looking at. Quality control systems, probably not total responsibility, but part of it. Research and development. Analyze what's happening. Are they eligible for the R&D incentive rebate? Business review meetings. Scaling up, which we mentioned before. They're just some of the activities that you might like to look at. So hopefully what I'm establishing for you is there is a lot of material within this whole area that needs to be looked at and analyzed. The next one I want to go to is a workflow process for business advisory services that you might tend to look at. So there's 25 steps in this document. So first of all, you need to ensure that your team has been trained on the delivery of business advisory services. I think you should be conducting client surveys. Basically, before you start offering business advisory, but if you've already started, that's all right. You can do it now. You can say it's the start of a new financial year, and we're going to do a survey and get some feedback. And there's forms within your kits to help you on that. And again, in 6 months' time. Review the clients you think are A-class clients. Are you providing business advisory services to them? Invite clients to an information seminar. So this then works its way through to look at the total services you're supplying. And if you're the chief financial officer, you need to have monitored that in the process. And obviously what I'm now going through is giving you an idea of the support material that you're going to be able to access from ESS BIZTOOLS. And the next one I want to show you is one of our papers. We're going to go to systems for business. Because as the CFO, you need to be evaluating the systems that are being utilized in the firm. Benefits of a written system. I think every system should be documented. That's why franchising has been a very successful system. I know not every franchise has succeeded, but most have. And most have created great systems for their franchisors and also the franchisees. So that's a paper that you might be able to distribute to your client's team so that they have an understanding of where you're coming from and why you're looking at all of these components in the system. The next one I want to move to is a key area in all this is things like break even. So within the toolkit that you've got available, and you can see from what I'm flicking through here, there's a lot of material. I'm just picking some of it out. because the CFO is a very broad role. So we have a paper on break even, because this is one of the most important things that clients should understand. The individual managers of various activities within your client's business, I think, should know their break even and should be looking at it on an ongoing basis. So you have this article here, which will help you understand how break even is calculated. And here's the calculation. So in this particular business, we're saying that on a 32% gross profit percentage, pardon me, and the overheads that they have, that their break even's 1.83 million. And then we have the proof of that. So hopefully that gives you some tools that you might look at talking to your clients about. The next area I want to talk to you about is key performance indicators. And we've called this the performance measures for KPIs. KPIs are very important in a company, but the team, the client's team, need to understand how it all fits together. So the key categories are quantity, quality, time, and cost. Because these are easily understood, easily determined measures that people can look at very quickly and have a good idea whether everything is going okay. When I was in a public company, the CEO relied basically on weekly performance reports that identified gross profit percentage and average sale for hundreds of butcher shops. So you've got that material which can assist you in communicating to clients and their team members what's important about key performance indicators. The next one I want to show you is characteristics of a well-run business. What goes into it? We've identified 20 key characteristics. There they are: personal capacity and development, excellent customer knowledge and service, excellent product and industry knowledge, systems, the ability to analyze results, cash control, stock management control, work in progress, debtors control, cost control, staff management, motivation, marketing expertise, the ability to assess marketplace opportunities, assessment of competitors. I think that's very important. The capital base, use of advisors, networking, planning, quality control, administration and management. Now, if you think of any others, you can add them to what's there. But what we're trying to do here is to highlight to you the tools that you have as a resource, because a virtual CFO services is a very broad canvas, and you will then need to be able to create a compartment of what you're going to do in this role and what else needs to be done, so that if some of it needs to be done by the client's office manager, that can be discussed, and then that person can be appropriately trained in undertaking that task. So then we got the material. What are the characteristics? This personal capacity and development. Now, this is for someone to run a small business. Drive and energy. We had that for CFOs, didn't we? I think it applies to everyone. If you're going to be involved in the free enterprise world, high levels of self-confidence, you need that. Sometimes you might have some doubts, but you really need it. You've got to be determined. You've got to have the ability to solve problems. So you can use this material to communicate with the leadership team and the staff team to make them aware customer knowledge. And if you're performing a virtual CFO role, you will be far more engaged with what's happening in customer land than what you have ever been as the compliance accountant expert for your client, preparing the annual accounts and the tax return. Probably didn't even think about customers, but you'll become aware of them, their characteristics, their annual spends, what promotions have to go on for them, what all this costs. Who are they? What's their demographics? These are questions you've probably never had to consider. Who's the best customers? Sometimes it's not the one that pays you the most money. And in fact, many businesses now prepare their own individual P&L on key customers because they want to make sure that when all those extra services that are being provided and the arms screwing that's gone on from the customer onto your sales team, at the end of the day, did you really make any money? They're vital questions when you're involved in commercial activities as distinct from compliance activities. So hopefully that brief discussion gives you an idea of the opportunities that that paper will give you. You might want to look at things like debtors days outstanding calculation. I'll just go back in the forms here. As you can see, I'm moving around our material to just show you some of these things in this webinar. And I should have asked before, but I've forgotten. If you've got any questions, sorry, I do have a question. The question is all good with this, but what software do you have to run calculations? It's not software, it's forms that you can use. This is an ongoing changing activity. And you need to be identifying the key services. There are various forms which you can utilize. The debtors days outstanding calculation, how that is calculated, is a form that you could use in your systems. And there's an explanation of how debtors days outstanding is calculated. You might want to talk to the team about things like stock matrix, because there needs to be an appreciation of the what are the star stocks. Star stocks are normally defined as high volume and high margin, or the cash cows, which are high volume but very low margins at times. And problem mimes, low volume with high margins. And the dogs, low volume, low margins. You really don't want these in the system, so that you could sit down and make sure that the team understands what are the star items. They're the things they should be trying to sell. But the cash cows, I think, should be placed in such a way that people have got to walk around stores to find them, and nearby or right next to them should be these star items. What are the problem lines? Low volume, but could be high margins. They might be last year's fashions. But if last year's fashions was yellow and this year's is green, people won't buy them. And the sludge, items which are low margin and low quantities. You really shouldn't have them, but everyone has them. And then we want to talk about the risk areas, which I'm just trying to find a particular paper here at present. Which seems to have escaped me. Business development checklist. Gives you a summary of when you might be going to do things that need preparing. You're going to prepare weekly performance estimates, which are quite easy to prepare on most businesses and are a great guide to how they're operating. Budgets and cash flow forecasts. A management account's going to be prepared on a departmentalized basis so that the results can be closely examined. Ratio analysis, debtors analysis and review, stock analysis, whole range of items there that you need to go through and determine, if you're the CFO, when these activities are going to be attended to and utilized within the business. I also want to show you the due diligence checklist. Which is a document that, as a CFO, you may need to refer to if you're doing or undertaking negotiations with someone to acquire your business, your company, or to invest in it. So this is a document which we've prepared and utilized on a number of occasions for identifying the corporate structure, shareholders, what share options have been issued, what shares are not to be diluted by further issues, details of shareholders' agreements or term sheets that are already in play, what are the specific requirements relating to veto power, etc. Now, these are real situations that can occur, that as a CFO, you will be very much involved in the preparation of this type of material. Who are the directors? What's their term of appointment? What are the directors' fees? Do they hold any share options? Which alternative directors have any of them appointed? Who's the chairperson? Does the chairperson have a casting vote at the meeting? How often does the CEO meet with the chairperson? In some public companies, it's an ongoing requirement. Directors' meetings, how often are they held? Are you the company secretary? And what's the procedure at directors' meetings? Who submits reports? And so the document goes on. It's very, very important that if you're negotiating with major investors, they want to know this information and they can then make their investment decisions. So I now want to move on to our special package, which we have at present. There's a 50% discount available to the 6th of August on the package that I've just shown to you, which also includes a training package and our monthly newsletter. Chief Financial Officer Service package is a 50% discount, $1,375, including GST. We do have an innovation package. We had a webinar on that yesterday, and if you want the recording, you can obtain that on our website. There's a 50% discount, $2,500. That links research and development, accelerating commercialization, and early stage innovation companies with various forms and templates and videos to guide you through that process. The Business Advisory Services Starter Package covers a range of material that we think gets people underway and includes a software package for determination of charge-out rates. Do they reflect the productivity percentages being achieved? Do they reflect the markup on external purchases? Do they reflect the overhead costs of the business? Also, a similar calculation for professional services firms and retailers or wholesalers, the product mix, the various markups that apply, the overhead costs, the wages costs. How does all that come together so that the business can trade at a profit? Debtors review. Australia's got one of the highest debtors days outstanding in the world. What are you going to do about helping your clients reduce their debtors days outstanding? So we've got notes that on the system review. Survival in difficult times is a 38 questionnaires linked to a ongoing commentary which we've prepared to assist in undertaking a detailed review of a business. Analyze the gross profit, analyze average sales, where are the sales coming from, and work through with your client in performing roles that you would do as the CFO. The gold package includes everything that we have produced, including our special software package on finding government grants, which we call ESS BizGrants, so that you can familiarise yourself with the grants that are available from the Australian, state and territory governments. And many of those grants, you can potentially secure work assignments to help your client implement some change within their business, and you get paid 50% by the Australian government. Upcoming webinars, we have predictive accounting, which is a software product built around Plan Guru, a USA company that in the last 8 or 9 years has expanded into 52 countries around the world. Paul Barnaby, FCA, supplies the support for that product in Australia, and ESS BIZTOOLS is also involved in the predictive accounting. The big gain we've made in negotiations with Plan Guru is the license for utilisation of that package for our subscribers to predictive accounting is that they will have 10 clients able to operate on that Plan Guru system, whereas normally that is only 3. So that webinar, which will feature Paul Barnaby and myself, is on Monday, the 2nd of August at 12 noon. If you want to understand more about how the Survival in Difficult Times package works that I just mentioned before, you can come to another webinar on the 3rd of August at 12 noon. SME debtors systems, which we have developed a complete system, including a template for you to produce a customized debtors system, is on Thursday, the 12th of August. Using client seminars and webinars, we've got a total of 36 of those included within the package, all ready to go. You just download them and you're able to utilize them. And we're going to show you the characteristics of a well-run business, which we showed you a little bit of today when we looked at that paper. Predictive accounting is back on the 20th also, if you miss the 3rd of August. We have a demonstration on how the retail pricing calculator works. I just referred to that. We're aligning product mixes and markups to earn targeted profits. And we have on the, that's on the 25th of August, and on the 31st of August, which is basically the end of this concept of running a seminar, in some cases more than one, each week, be in July and August on our starter package. And that one is on the business health checks program, which we've produced, which is a software package, pharmacies and supermarkets. So to register for any of those webinars, please go to our homepage, ESS BIZTOOls.com.au, and scroll down to upcoming webinars. If you want to know more, please go to our website, www.essbiztools.com.au, or you can telephone me if you wish, 1-800-232-088, or send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. So thank you very much for participating in this webinar. We have recorded it. You will be able to view a recording if you wish. It will be attached to our next Accountant's Minute. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you for your interest and have a great day. And if you're in one of the lockdown cities or centres around Australia, we are thinking of you and we wish you every success. Goodbye.